So, yeah, how you doing?
I'm good, holding up, all things considered.
Yeah, how's it going with the quarantine for you?
It's not bad, I'm just in here mostly.
Yeah, I bet.
And,
It's nice to have a room like that, though.
yeah, definitely lucky that I have this place to be creative and I've had a lot of time in here recently, so that's been nice too.
I'm curious to know, when did you get into music? How old were you, and when did you
Oh
start?
man, I'm just always like I just remember singing along on the car trips, on the family trips. We were singing them, and my dad always had music playing, a lot of like BB King and Bob Dylan and Beatles and stuff like that. So it's a
So your
lot
dad
of,
had a record collection, or?
yeah, just CDs and tapes mostly. And yeah, he just always loved music, and we just we it was just kind of a musical. My parents are not musicians, but they're pretty musical. And I got my first instrument was I was playing flute in fourth grade in the school band, and I don't know why, but when I was younger than that, like kindergarten, first grade, I just remember seeing the school band playing, and and then I was just like, I want to play the flute, and so I
First
just
grade,
knew.
huh?
Yeah, I mean, I started in fourth grade, but I just knew for some reason, I don't know why, but I was just like, that's the one, the flute. And then so when I finally got to fourth grade and could pick an instrument, I was like, that's the one. And I did that for like 5 years school band, and then
Hmm.
got a bass in seventh grade, and that was about it after
Interesting.
that.
So you started on the flute.
Yeah, yeah. And I still can play it like a middle schooler.
Oh, nice. Did you have any favorite, you know, artists that you listened to in that first grade to eighth grade kind of time zone?
In elementary school, I really liked a lot of Motown and oldies, Beatles, Beach Boys, that kind of thing. And then middle school, I started getting more into like the grunge, Nirvana,
Yeah.
and Sublime and Pearl Jam and that kind of era, and that's when I wanted to get a bass. My friends were like, I wanted to get a bass because like my friends, we wanted to start a band, and
Mhm.
one kid had a guitar and one kid wanted to play drums. So I was like, okay, I get a bass.
Yeah, nice.
And then just, went
Little
from
did you
there.
know that the bass is the instrument that if you pick up, the most amount of people are going to want to play with you.
Yeah,
So
little
it's
did I know. And then all of a
kind of
sudden,
the
here I
one that
am.
you're going to keep you the most busy, So when you were in first grade, did you have a teacher?
Well, I didn't, no, I mean, I didn't start flute till fourth grade. And
Yeah,
then I didn't,
fourth grade. Yeah.
it was just the school bands. I think I took some private lessons one summer, but for the most part, I was just in the school band and just doing those things.
Anything stand out about that teacher? Did you like the teacher?
Yeah, she was cool. That was, I guess that was my first private instructor experience. It was interesting. It was definitely different, getting like direct attention as opposed to in the school band where you're just like, okay, everybody play. Okay, everybody stop playing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like, and then she would like have me, she was like, if you practice this, she kind of gave me ways of practicing
Mhm.
that I didn't have before. Before it was just like practice. And she kind of gave me a little bit more methodology, like repeat these parts and do X amount of time each day and that kind of thing. So it was kind of interesting to have a little more direction.
Nice. So that took you to about high school, and then you were playing bass. What was your? Tell me about your high school musical
Um,
experience.
well, I got my bass in middle school, and I took a few years of private lessons there. Um,
And who was your teacher?
his name is Fred Challenor.
And that was in what city?
That was in Seattle, and
Fred Challenor.
yeah, he was working at he was in like he was in Zony Mash, and
Oh, snap.
yeah, so he was like one of the guys back in the day. I didn't know that was I was
You
not
just
in.
were. It was just
Yeah,
whoever
I
you
was just
got.
taking private lessons. We met him he was working at Trading Musician. We met him at Trading Musician where I got my bass, and like, but he got me, at the time it was kind of tough for me to realize what I was getting from him. But
Right,
like,
right, right.
but looking back, the stuff he was giving me was awesome. He was getting me, like, I just wanted to play rock with my friends, but he was getting me theory and like walking bass lines and stuff like that, that it wasn't until later that I realized how much had seeped in from that. And then,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so that was really cool. And he passed away a few years ago, but I'm definitely really grateful for that time that I had with him. And I still, like, one of my first lessons with him, he gave me a couple of Thelonious Monk tapes, like cassette tapes. And
Amazing. Yeah.
I put it in like one time and I was like, whatever, it's not really for me. I wasn't like into the jazz stuff. But then like 10 years later, when I was like getting into that stuff, I was digging through my parents' basement and stumbled on it. And I was like, oh, this is just a gold mine. It was so cool.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
One of them was just like, one side of one of them was just take after take of him doing Round Midnight solo piano. Just like, it was like the engineer session, right? Like, so he would do a take and then he'd be like, nah, not that one. And then he'd do another one and get halfway through it and be like, nah, not that one. And there's a little like him and the engineer talking, and every single version is totally different and totally unique. And it's just such a cool thing.
Yeah. Nice. It's nice to be able to get a glimpse into the way a genius works, right?
Right.
Someone
Right.
like Thelonious Monk, like a genius like him, just to see.
So there was that, and then really though, I spent just a lot of time in high school in the garage with my friends, learning rock songs and writing songs and jamming out and learning that way. It wasn't till college that I really started like kind of honing in on the bigger picture of it, and like the more kind of studied version of it. It was really just like, I'm just jamming with my friends, trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I've been blessed with some great teachers in my life as well. I did about half a year of the after school jazz band in Roosevelt, but that wasn't really, it just wasn't for me at the time. I just wanted to be in the garage with my buddies.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. 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 Of course.
And, I kind of sometimes I kind of wish that I had taken advantage of that at the time, but it was what it was. And then I ended up eventually at Shoreline Community College, and I got to study with this guy Steve Kim.
Steve Kim is sort of a local legend.
Yeah, who's just phenomenal fretless bass player. And it was cool too because I had just started playing fretless like about a year before I met him.
Yeah.
And he just took my fretless playing to a whole other level. And, I played exclusively fretless for probably about 10 years there. Maybe not quite, but almost 10 years there. I was playing just fretless. And that guy was really, just the way he broke down the theory and all that stuff on the bass really, really spoke to me, helped me out a lot. Getting myself in the room to practice and like getting myself to finish my project, that kind of thing has always been the harder thing for me because when there's a social aspect to it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm the same way. I'm the totally same way. Yeah, like the things that I really remember that I love about playing music almost always culminate when I'm working with other people and other people are listening, and then I'm communicating with the people who I'm working with, the professionals on the stage. We've got something brewing that we're kind of doing, and it's a chemistry thing and it's a communication thing. And once we start communicating with ourselves and someone in the crowd starts to pick up on it, that's always what it's all about. And it's always been the same for me that there's a social side to it. But
being able to keep in mind that the more time that I'm able to spend on myself and like really develop my voice, the more I'm able to really express myself in that situation, right?
Exactly.
You got to have both of those things. And so like, keeping that, for me, that's the part I have to remember is like keeping working on my instrument and my craft. And then also like keeping working on my writing and producing and all those things, just so that I'm, it's a lifelong journey. I'm still trying to get more and more in touch and more understand what my voice and my message are, so that when I get into that situation, I can really feel comfortable and express myself in that way with the people who I'm playing with, or just talking with like this. If we're talking and I don't know, and I haven't been spending time thinking about how I think about these things, then it's going to be harder for me to even have this conversation.
No, clearly, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And it's a fun conversation to have.
It is musically or verbally.
Even further, I mean, like for me, I've had some pretty profound experiences with music, both listening and playing, where I'll actually start to kind of like tingle, like my body will tingle if I'm like really getting into that communication that we're talking about. Like it's almost like I have a whole philosophy on it, but just like pure joy, pure, like what's the feeling of pure joy, of actual pure pleasure, like getting real actual joy and pleasure from doing this,
for me, like, that feeling is super important, right? And that I want that feeling musically, and I want to be able to access that feeling just in day-to-day life, in walking down the street, in conversations with people, when I'm eating, whatever, like, and I think for me anyway, and maybe there's a lot of ways to get there, but for me, the meditation practices that I've brought into my life have been what helped me to connect to that, because I believe that feeling is usually there, right? And what happens is my mind is working on other things and thinking about so many other things that it's not even taking the time to notice that connection, that feeling are already there, right? When I'm thinking about scales, I'm not thinking about music, right? You got to use your scales and get those locked in, but then you want to move past it so you're not thinking about it, so that you can be in that feeling. Right? I tell my students, like, if you're playing a song and you're thinking about the chords and you're thinking about the scales, then you're playing me a song about scales, right? But if you're playing that song and you have it down to the point where you don't have to think about the notes, then you can think about an emotion, and that's what you're playing the song to me about now.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Yeah. And similarly, like when you're really writing music and putting music together, it shouldn't be about all the rules, or that's all that people are going to hear. It should be a feeling. It should be like, capturing a feeling, like putting that feeling down. Even for a beginner, for anyone, music is sort of like the ultimate marriage of the right and left brain. And that's why someone like Coltrane is like so incredibly considered to be so advanced, or like some of these guys, even Monk, they had a perfect unity of both their brains, because one side of your brain is analytical and one side is creative. Right. In order to access all the creativeness, you have to first use your analytical side to really sit down and work on it. Even if you're a beginner, you have to like over and over again play the note in time, or work on the chord. You play the chord, once you've played it, for 4 weeks every day for 5 minutes, all of a sudden your analytical side of your brain has captured the information. Your creative side can just pick it up and just do it based on how it sounds. And it just goes up and up and up with that, as far as you want to go.
Yeah.
But the few things that are like that I can think of are music and sports. I think sports might also be like that. You're trying to
honestly, I think a lot of things are like that.
Yeah.
When you get to the levels of mastery of whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, whether it's playing basketball or playing chess or an architect or an engineer or a dancer or any of those things, right? I think that when they get to a level of mastery of it, it comes from that joining of those two sides, right? Like you think of Einstein, and he's obviously you know, understands physics and all the mathematical sides of all those things that he's talking about. But then he went and he started thinking completely outside the box and had to be super creative about it, right? On the next level of it. And I think when you get to that high level of really whatever human endeavor it is, it becomes, you know, you got to get the mechanical, and then it becomes, honestly, I think it goes, so like there's this book called The Science and the Art of Tracking is by this guy, Tom Brown Jr., this naturalist, and he's talking about animal tracking, like using footprints to track animals and things like that, right? And the cool thing, what makes me think about this is, you know, it's called The Science and the Art of Tracking. What he talks about is like, first you got to get the science down, and once you get the science down, then you can move to the art of it, right? And I think even after that, you can, whatever endeavor, again, then it moves to the spiritual realm, right? So it starts with the science, starts with the mechanics. You get those mechanics down, then you can move to the artistic side of it. And once you merge those two, now we're talking in the spiritual realm where you're connecting to something greater than yourself, where the creativity feels like it's flowing, it's coming through you. You're not even in charge of it. It's just happening, and you just happen to be the vessel that it chose to come through. You know what I mean? And that's that feeling.
The best.
That's that feeling when we're all on stage, and music uses us as a unit to create something. I didn't know we were going to take a left. You didn't know we were going to take a left, and all of a sudden we all just went left, and we're there. And that's the moment, right?
Right. Yeah. Like
the audience is right there with you, no question.
So as we are dealing with the COVID-19 and the quarantine stuff, how do we maintain the same vibe? I mean, one, I guess, is if we do bring any teachers on to keep them of the same caliber.
Yeah.
But
I think so.
You know, that's what I'm dealing with now. Is like, I'm just thinking, how do I do it? You know?
Yeah. I think, honestly, that's the main thing right there.
Bringing the teachers on, and then having a methodology. Like the methodology is, you know, we meet all the students where they are, no matter who they are, like figure out where they are, really identify that, and then figure out, okay, what do they need to get to the next level?
And what direction they want to go.
What direction do they want to go?
There's a lot of different directions you could go with any given instrument.
Could be even like a 2 or 3 prong approach as well, depending on who it is and what they want. That's
something else that I really like about your philosophy, is just that it is really individual. You know, what does this student want? What does this student need? And how do we get them there? As opposed to some other places where it's more like all the curriculums are a little more the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, hiring people who you know can work within the parameters and do a great job, but then because you give them some freedom, they'll have more fun teaching, and then the student will have more fun as well.
Exactly. But and even like, oh, you know, me and this student, I just don't think that I'm the one for them, but I really think this other teacher and them would really connect.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an option too, which is very cool, having all these different teachers with different styles and different backgrounds, but all at a pro level.
The other thing is to, you know, once you figured out where the person is, where they want to go, and you're starting to get them there, I think part of the methodology is also to, like, as you're teaching them, like, take into account, like, what's working for them as far as a learning style. Like, I often find that some people are like, you know, this guy's more visual. Like, this guy needs to see it written down. You know, like I'll try and show something to someone, and I'll be like, okay, they're getting stuck. Let's throw it at them a different way, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, how are they responding to that? Okay, that seemed to work better. So this person likes stuff to be written down.
Yeah.
This other person works better at this. And then, not giving too much stuff, but then like really working through it with someone like, okay, so this is their hurdle. They're stuck at this place. Instead of being like, okay, let's just put that aside or just come in with that next week. It's like, no, let's have you do that in front of me so I can see where you're getting stuck.
Yeah.
And give you some advice on how you can get through that. And if you actually get to that point and do a good job of it, you're now teaching so much more than music. Because you're now teaching that person, how does their brain work? And then how do you actually build a new, connection that you haven't had before in your brain?
How do you take something that you absolutely couldn't do and move it to the level that now you can really do it?
Yeah.
And that applies to, anything, especially in the neuromuscular training, but any skill, like if we're whatever you want to learn, that's really what we're teaching. And that's the thing. That's what I want more. I wish public school was more like that instead of like, write this essay.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a type of attention and learning that you're giving to the student that they're not going to get in middle school, high school, college.
Exactly.
Really nowhere. Like, so
this is how you learn. This is how you teach yourself something new.
Yeah.
What do you want to know? Okay, let's go figure it out. A lot of times it's a song. I don't know every song, someone comes in, they're like, I want to learn this song. It's like, okay, I've never heard it before. Let's figure it out together. Right.
Totally. That's something I would do all the time.
That's the journey. I guess a little shameless self-promotion that I got my 4th solo EP under Bass Fiend called Side D. I'm just getting that finished up. I'm in the mastering process right now. And so working on how I'm going to release and all that kind of stuff, but I'm excited for that.
And that you did that all by yourself?
100% recorded, wrote, written, mixed, mastered, all right here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. I can't wait to hear it.
Hey, right on, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's really been a good time for reflection and just get inside yourself and see what's essential. What really do you need? What are the things that you really couldn't go without, and the things that was like, oh, I really didn't miss that so much,
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, cheers, man.
Yeah,
I am going to sign off. I will see you soon.
Yes, sir. You have a good one.
Peace.